Hey, this is Mark Silver.
And Jim Reinbold.
Jim, let's go through and do some basic CAD. Let's take the most simple survey we can imagine, take it to the point where we're going to print it on our plotter.
Okay. First thing we need to do, Mark, is set up a new job. Two ways to do that. We can click on the new icon here and accept the default template. Or if we exit here, we can use File and New and then select the template we want to. For our first run, we'll just use the default template. We'll give the drawing a name, and in here, our Carlson Projects folder. We'll create a new folder, and then within the new folder, we'll open that up and create our drawing.
Now, horizontal scale. The job we're going to do is about 1,200 feet wide.
That should fit on a D-size plot at 50 scale.
Okay.
So I think we're okay there. I think I'm going to kick these numbers up just a little bit for the text size.
Well, I do wear trifocals, so that's a good idea.
And you'll notice that our drawing unit size went up. Hit Next. Our data is all going to be stored in our basic CAD folder. We're going to create a point coordinate file called basic CAD. If you want to change the name, you can use the Set button. It's a new coordinate file at this point. We don't have anything to bring in, so we'll leave that on None and hit Next. So now we're in our drawing. You can tell because at the top it says Basic CAD Drawing and Basic CAD for the CRD file.
Okay, I don't like the yellow background. Can you fix that?
Yeah. Go into Settings. In this case, we're using IntelliCAD. So IntelliCAD Options. Go to your Display tab. Down here you have your graphic screen color, your sheet layout color. We'll change the graphic screen color.
You probably like black.
I'm an old school CAD user. Black is what I was born with a long time ago. So we'll go with black here. Alright, so now we're ready to get started. We want to set up a base point in here to work off of.
And how about 5,000, 10,000?
Alright, so we'll go to Points, Draw Locate. I also don't particularly care for circles. We're going to be setting property corners here, so I'm going to use this little SPT11.
I like that.
We're going to enter and assign the coordinates.
You just took all the defaults there. Life's good.
Yep. We're going to use a northing, and we said we want to use 5,000.
And for the easting, let's use 10,000.
I like using 5,000. 10,000 makes it really easy to tell if you're looking at a northing or an easting.
Okay, and the elevation is 0.
Yep, we're just doing horizontal stuff. And for a description, I'm just going to use COR for corner. Now, it's gone back and asked for another northing. So with enter and assign, I can do a whole bunch of different points.
But I don't have any. All I've got is gunshots. So
we just hit enter to exit the command. And we can zoom extents to view our point. Use the wheel on the mouse to scroll back.
Now you're dragging that around by, what are you doing to drag it around?
Pressing down on the wheel on the mouse.
So that's the center button or the roller ball.
Yeah.
And you're pushing it down and then the points move
around on the screen. And then just click and drag.
Okay, I like that.
All right.
So let's put in a line here.
Okay, so you said you had some gunshots. So you've got bearings and distances to work with.
I've got bearings and distances. And we're going to start at the southeast corner.
Okay.
We're following the east line of a section here.
There are probably a couple of ways we can do that. Oh, we're going to follow the east line of the section. We probably actually want to move this over then.
Yep.
So this is more on the east side. There's a couple of ways we can do these lines, but I think what may work best here is if we locate the line by bearing. Now, one of the things I will want to do, since we're going to draw the lines, is make sure that these lines are turned on. Coco gives you raw file and lines as an on-off toggle here. So now as we put in our points, or our bearings and distances,
draw the line behind us.
So draw the line as well as put the point in. So we need a starting point number. We'll start with point 1. And then it's looking for how we're going to describe that. And we're going to give it a bearing, so we'll type B, the capitalized letter there for bearing. And it's asking for it in a specific format. The Q is for the quadrant, then degrees, minutes, and seconds.
I'm assuming quadrant 1 is the northeast quadrant?
Yes, you break it up and it runs counterclockwise.
Okay, so my first call is due north, so we can go 1, 0. We're done.
And we're done. We don't need to put in the decimal point and the other zeros for that. And then we need a distance.
Okay, we're going to go 600 feet.
And it's asking for a vertical angle. No vertical angle would be 0. And you can see that on the command line right above the question there.
Okay. Great. I'm due north. Now I need to go.
Well, I got a couple things to do here. I need to hit enter to accept the description of corner.
Oh, good.
And so now we can see our 2 points up there.
Okay, now I need to go to the northwest.
Now, what I did here, Mark, is I just hit enter to restart the same command. And I'm going to tell it to start at point 2.
Okay, that's our occupied point.
We'll do a bearing.
And I need to go northwest, so that's
quadrant 4.
And I need 89 degrees, 10 minutes, 16 seconds.
One thing to keep in mind, if you had something that was, say, 7 degrees, you would want to put that 0 in. You need to use, or 7 minutes. You want to put the 0 in,
Absolutely.
so it'd be 0.07.
Okay, and that distance is 1198.75.
And again, we'll hit enter to accept corner. So we have our upper line there.
Now
Restart the command, working off point 3.
I actually don't know what this next call is.
Okay.
So I've got the bottom line. So let's come back over here to the southeast corner.
And I'm just going to simply escape out of the command and then restart it. And we want to start at point 1 again.
Okay.
And we'll do a bearing.
Okay, the bearing on this one is north. Well, I shot it the other way, so I need to go northwest. So it's north 89.
So we're going to go quadrant 4, 89.
1014.
1014.
And that was 1200.78. Great.
And we'll accept our corner. So we didn't shoot this last line.
Well, that would have been a lot of work. That
Okay.
would have been a lot of work.
Well, to go ahead and get this to close, what we can do is just simply go in and draw a 2D polyline, and we can tell it what layer it's going to go on our current layer, which is 0. And number of options here. So we could specify a unique layer for it, specify an elevation for it to override normal CAD defaults. But then here we can actually enter point numbers and tell it to draw from point 2.
You want to go from 3 to 4.
I want to go from 3 to 4. So we go from point 3 to point 4, and we're done.
Great.
Now, reason I chose a polyline here is Carlson does a lot of things with polylines that it doesn't do with lines.
Right. In fact, the next thing that I'd like to do is annotate all these lines with their bearings and distance.
Okay. Quickest way to do that annotation, working off the annotate menu, is with what we call auto annotate. Auto annotate works with lines and arcs, so you can specify whether your angular distance is above or below the line, is it centered on the line, do you want to use tables, so a number of options there. Similar idea with arcs, what information you want to see, what order you want to see it in.
All these defaults look pretty reasonable to me.
For the most part, yeah. The one thing we can always look at here too.
We got our distance below, that's good.
Yep, that's working. So let's go ahead and hit OK. The nice thing about auto annotate is I can pick all the lines and label them in one shot.
Ooh. Ooh, that's nice. Text is a little small.
Text is a little small. We can look at our annotation defaults. And again, our text size scaler is a little small here, so I'm going to kick that up just a little bit.
Now, will this text change in the background?
It won't change on the fly, but all I have to do is run auto annotate again, click OK, and when I window it, the old text will disappear and the new text goes
so I don't
in.
have to go to erase the old text off.
Right.
That's good. I like that. Now, can we put a description over in the corner here?
You want it inside the lot or outside the lot?
I think outside the lot, I like a legal description.
Okay. To use the legal description writer, the first thing I need to do is make this one polyline.
Okay, so I don't do it by points, I do it by polyline.
You can do it by point groups. Tricky part there is making sure your point numbers are in the right order. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use p-edit command
Okay.
to edit a polyline. And I'll
I only have one polyline, right?
select the one I drew, yep. And then I'm going to use the join option down here at the bottom. Type J and enter, and then pick the other 3 lines, and this will join this into a single polyline. And it even tells us that 3 segments were added. We can hit X to exit. Now that that's a polyline, we can go into our survey menu and look at our legal description writer.
Now what about the order of these points?
Well, the legal description will be written in the direction that the polyline was drawn.
Okay.
We started here, drew this way, but having added this polyline may have changed that.
Okay.
So when we use this as
Is
the
there any
core,
way to verify what direction these lines are?
yeah. First thing we'll do is we'll make sure we're starting in the right place. So we'll edit our polyline and set the polyline origin, pick our polyline, and tell it we want it to start right there.
Okay,
And
that's
it
good.
snapped to the end point of the line. Now that we have that established, we can actually use the polyline utilities to reverse the polyline. So when we click on this, it draws little arrows saying it's going
Wrong way.
clockwise. That's the wrong way, so we click it again. Now it's going counterclockwise. That's the direction
Okay,
we
we're
want.
good to go. So surveyed.
Legal description writer.
Are there a lot of options down here under settings?
Under the settings, you can configure any of these verbiage to work the way you want. Again, with arcs, you're going to be able to tell us what order you want to see them, what you want to see. But it's very user customizable.
I'm going to imagine that these defaults are pretty good.
Defaults are reasonable. I do recognize that different cities and counties will have different requirements for how they want things annotated. So you have a variety of those settings. You can also put in standard header or footer files, simple text files that are put on the front and back end of the legal description. The area we're going to write the description for can either be picked by a polyline or inside a boundary.
So I can just click inside this polyline and it'll find the polyline
It'll find
and then
it.
write the description. Interesting.
If you have a polyline that goes from your point of beginning back to, say, a section corner,
Oh, okay.
you can actually pick that as a reference and it will add that to your legal
Because
description.
at the beginning it'll say from whence.
Right.
Yep, okay.
So I'm going to pick my polyline. Doesn't matter where I pick. And then I'm going to use the report viewer.
Okay.
Main reason is from the report viewer, I can still save a text file and place the description as mtext.
Okay.
So it gives me more flexibility. So there's our report, pretty basic report.
Looks right.
But the nice part is I know all my numbers are right. So now we could save it out here as a text file. It'd be TXT extension. Using the screen, make those a little bit taller. I'm going to pick a point. Oh, that's picking my layer. We'll let it put its own layer. Click OK. And it wants to know where to put it, so we'll just sit it right down there, an angle for it. And it doesn't appear yet, but as soon as we exit here, it appears in our drawing.
Nice.
Now-
Can we put a north arrow right above that?
Yeah, this is mtext, so I can move it as a body to get a little better positioned where I wanted it. If we double click it, click OK,
Looks good.
and then you wanted a north arrow. That's also on our annotate menu. Draw a north arrow. We have a variety of north arrows that are available,
Oh.
several pages worth. You can even add your own north arrow to this list now.
Wow.
So you can insert custom north arrows. So
That's good.
try that one. And there we go. Rotation on that is based on where north is. It's also set up to be scaled based on our project.
Now, I want to plot this out on our plotter. I'm done with this drawing now. How do I plot it out?
Well, if you want a title block on it, you have a couple of options. We can insert a title block
Oh yeah, we better do that.
from our settings menu. Now if we insert this in model space, we want to make sure that our scale is set to what our project scale is, and in this case it was
Yep.
50 scale.
Wouldn't it make more sense to put the title block in paper space?
In some ways I think so.
Okay.
Now the difference between model space and paper space is this particular line down here is 1,200 units long in CAD.
Mm-hmm.
It's life size. When we go to the layout view, which is our paper space, at 50 scale, that 1,200 feet is going to be 24 inches,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be real tight on our 50 scale.
Right.
So we may want to actually bump that up. But let's give it a shot and see what happens here. So we're going to go into our settings, title blocks, 24 by 36. Scale is 1, because when we're in paper space, everything is the size it would be on the paper. So we're going to use 1. We click OK. There's our title block. And this one actually includes attribute values, so we could go in here and tell it that this was drawn by me and it was approved by you.
Well, I'm really proud of this.
So there you go.
We got our name on a drawing.
Now at this point it doesn't know what size our paper is, and that's assigned by your plotter.
Okay.
So if
So
we
we probably
into
go up and tell it which plotter we're
plot.
going to use.
Yep. We'll do our plot setup, and let's see, looks like we need to add one in here. So we'll call it setup 1. And printer we want to use here is the Epson
That's
9800.
the one. Yeah.
Okay. 8.5 by 11 is not going to work at all. We're going to try this 36 by 24. Okay, and we close that. What we'd want to do now is simply take our title block and move it a little bit over so it fits our paper a little bit better. Like so. So now that we have our title block in position, what we want to do is take our viewport, which is looking at our model space, and enlarge it so that we can set scale. So I'm just going to drag this out a bit, make it a little bit bigger, and I'm just using the grips to do this.
Okay.
Now to get our image centered in here, I'm going to simply double click inside. Our viewport becomes a bold line, and now I can use that middle mouse button, click and drag to get it centered. When I'm done there, we double click outside the viewport and it's normal. To set the scale, we select the viewport, right click, and go into properties. Now at here, you'll notice that our scale is not a standard scale. Well, that's because it was just scaled to fit whatever the viewport was. So now we can come down and tell it that we want a standard scale of 1 to 50.
Perfect.
Except we're losing part of our legal description.
Double click inside the drawing again.
So now we can double click inside here and just slide it over so it fits a little bit better. Once we're there, we double click. We've got it at scale where we want it.
I'm ready to plot.
Well, before I do that, one last thing I really want to try and do. I want to make sure that nobody messes up my scale on this.
Yeah, it's set perfect.
So I'm going to go in over here in my properties where it says display lock, and I'm going to tell it that's true. That locks the zoom scale on this.
Hey, now what about colors? This is a color plotter, but I just want black and white.
That's set up actually in your plot styles.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and close this. We're going to get ready to plot. Again, we go to File, Plot, Plot Style Manager. We got a monochrome version here, so we can go ahead and open that guy up. And you'll notice here that every color is set to be black.
Okay.
Okay. So when we actually go to plot, You have a plot style here. We can pick that monochrome version. We've got our paper size, our printable area. So the one thing we do want to do is tell it that we don't want to use the layout. I want to use a window. I want to be a little more precise about what I'm plotting. So I'll select that area, and I'm going to tell it to just plot the area inside my boundary.
Can we preview that before we print it?
Yeah.
Oh, it's perfect.
And then you just click print, and we're done.
Perfect. Thanks, Jim.
You bet.